Welcome, everybody. It's time for another episode of Keeping It Real, as in Keeping It Real Estate, with the one woman who really knows her stuff, Roseanne Nitty. Hey, Roseanne.
Hey, Paul. Good afternoon, Paul.
Have you really brought a good guest with us again here this week?
I have brought a good guest today. I brought my friend Josh Meader from Lawyer's Title.
Hello, everybody.
Hello,
Well,
Josh.
he's telling everybody, put it on Facebook. We're Facebook Living.
Yeah.
We're doing all this stuff here. He's pushing it out to some people here.
Yeah, we met several years ago when he was with another company, and we've been working together. He also works with some of the agents that I coach, we'll talk about what title people do, but they also help agents with their business as well, which is cool. We call him the Professor.
Professor
Meader, because he redefines our roles as title professionals in the industry.
Thank you.
But tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in Old Town Orange.
Cool.
In the Circle.
We
Went to
love
Orange
Old Town
High for a little
Orange.
while, and just a nice little college town there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be 39 this August. I have two beautiful children.
You just had a new baby.
Yes, 5-month-old son named Kevin, named after my
Awesome.
father.
Nice.
And
he's cute. He's got pretty blue eyes.
He has pretty blue eyes, yes.
Yeah.
And then I have a daughter, my firstborn, Brooklyn, and she's 11, and she makes me proud every day. I'm so grateful to be her dad.
Can I ask one
Raise
question
her.
here? And I'm
Yes.
not so loud to as the engineer, but what's up with this name Brooklyn? Donna Summers, one of her daughters, is named Brooklyn. Suddenly I see this. I have so many people. I hear this name. I mean, I think it's kind of a cool sound, but where the heck did this name come from?
You know, I
From
think
New York City.
Yeah, for us, we
Yeah.
wanted to add, a little bit of edge and toughness to her as a girl.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Brooklyn, when I was in my early teens, was known as a rough place to be. So,
Oh, there you go.
so a little,
So
a
don't
little
mess
street,
mess with Brooklyn.
Exactly, a little
Yeah.
street cred for her. Yeah.
That's cool. So you're with Lawyer's Title now.
Yeah.
And what we're going to, a lot of people, in fact, we just ran into Rick in the hallway, and tell us, what does a title company do?
Well, a title company ensures the transfer of the property from one party to the other. So they're also in charge of, recording the documentation. Escrow kind of sends over. Escrow is a neutral party, but they give us the final documents once they're signed, and it is our responsibility, part of our responsibility, to send it up to the county recorder and
To
have it
make sure they
recorded so it's
record.
official and of record.
And I
So,
don't think a lot of people realize that, and that's how title and escrow work very closely. So whenever I take a listing, the first thing I do is call you up and say, hey, Josh, I'm taking a listing on, 123 Main Street. I need a preliminary report.
Yes.
So what is a preliminary
A
report?
preliminary title report is a report that a title company creates prior to issuing title insurance. So it's kind of the instruction manual for escrow and for everybody involved in the transaction to, for what we need to curate and kind of any hurdles and liens that we need to address and get paid off before the property can legally transfer to the new party or to the buyer.
And that's really
so to speak,
important.
so.
In fact, when I'm coaching agents, I teach them how to read a preliminary report or actually refer them to you, because if there's an easement or encroachment. I had a property several years ago. It was raw land, 12 acres, that when I got the preliminary report, there were easements for cable and pipelines, and it rendered about 80% of the property useless.
Right.
So it makes a huge difference in being able to see if the neighbor's wall's encroaching,
Right, or-
if someone has an easement into the driveway.
Yeah, right of access to your property or
Right.
to pass through it. Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's important. And really important is in our California Association of Realtors contract, it says that the seller, if I'm selling my property, I am required to provide clear title to the buyer.
Yes.
And clear title is what?
Clear title means that you're passing this property to the new party or to the buyer, and there's no encumbrances, there's no judgments, tax liens, and it's also the property, in the legal description, it legally defines the property by lot and tract, or sometimes meet and bounds, depending on the area. So, it legally spells out the property and so you're receiving X, Y, and Z.
Legal description.
Legal description, right. And then it also ensures that you're receiving this property of any involuntary encumbrances, such as liens, tax liens, and encumbrances that you would have to be then at that point as the new homeowner responsible for.
So when I receive a preliminary report and it shows that the taxes are delinquent and there's a tax lien, the first thing I'm going to do is call my escrow officer and say, we're going to make sure that the seller's going to take care of this before we close.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And that's where escrow and title work together to handle these things. Because so the preliminary report is the initial report, and then we say, wow, we might need some things have to take care of.
Right.
And so I had an incident a few years ago with a dear friend of mine. It was her mother's property, and the title company found the trust. It was in her mother's trust.
Okay.
And we had to look at the trust. And so that can get tricky because there were several other people involved in that trust that had passed away, leaving her the full beneficiary.
Right,
so the title company, they're not being poops, they're not being difficult, but they want to make sure that she's the one that can actually sell that property.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah,
so that got a little tricky.
Yeah, and some people even lose their trust documents, which is surprising, and they can't find it. So they have to go back to the attorney who originally drew them up. One of the misconceptions is that the title company has access to the trust, and it's not a recorded document. The title company would only have access to documents that are recorded against the property and that are of official records, right? So the trust is something that's more of a personal document that an individual or family would keep. So oftentimes there's a little bit of irritation when the title company like, why are you asking for this paper? I don't know where it is. And we need it to make sure that we can legally transfer this property over to you. So
it's interesting. So that's really important. And that's what title insurance is. Title insurance ensures that when I'm buying that house, that you're selling it to me, you have that right to sell it to me. It's free of encumbrances or anything that I haven't agreed to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Someone taught me it's the legal aspect of transferring a property free and clear of any involuntary encumbrances. So yeah, but you summed it up very well. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a quick break,
Already?
and we'll be back in a few minutes.
All right.
No, we're not. We're not taking a quick break. Oh, my bad.
We got 5 minutes.
Okay, got
good.
it. Okay. So let's go back then to how title works with escrow to set up a recording and closing. I had an agent that I'm coaching say, "Oh, the other agent is mad at me because I asked for the keys." And I said, well, you haven't recorded yet.
Right,
So explain that. We touched on it just a little bit, but if I'm signing the loan documents, now the loan documents are going to the title company. They're being wired for funding.
Yes.
And that's where title handles the money as well, correct?
Yeah, well, no. Escrow
handles the money.
Escrow is a neutral party, a third neutral party that handles
the money.
The disbursement of funds. What would happen is, escrow would verify receipt of funds, and then would give us the clear to record. Go ahead and record, and then we would send it up to the county. In the old days, it would have to be couriered, actual hard copy documents. Now, in the current times, it can be a virtual copy, sent over,
which is
and
great.
It makes everybody's life a lot easier, and also. When there's like small windows, right, where you're up against the clock, it allows us to actually get it done and not have that new homeowner wait another day. But yeah, we send it up to the county, I get it recorded, and then I personally love to call my real estate clients, and I'll either send them like a video of me being goofy and singing that we're recorded and confirmed on the property.
That's the most
or I
important.
call them personally. Yeah, I mean that's the fun part.
We've
for
recorded,
me anyways. Yes,
right? Now you get your keys.
Yes, exactly. And then at that point is when the buyer agent would pick up the keys and deliver them to their client, their buyer.
And I think that's just a little confusion as people say, well, what is title insurance? Why am I paying for it? Why no one told me this? And now they're...
That's why this right now is so great, is because, yeah, there's a huge lack of awareness for, if you're not in the real estate industry, if you're not a realtor, or you haven't bought a ton of houses, you know, no one knows what title insurance is.
Right.
Do I have time to tell you about a quick little story?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I worked at another title company, and at this point in time, I was doing customer service, and a gentleman came in with boots and a work belt, and, you know, he was a construction guy, and he came in, he says, "I'm here for my interview." And I kind of looking at him, scratching my head, going, is he interviewing? I don't understand what's going on. And so he thought it was a tile company. And he was a tile layer.
He was going to lay some tile.
Yes, yeah, exactly. He was going to lay some tile. So,
That's
you know,
funny.
it just kind of, it shows that there's a lack of awareness, the basic consumer and homeowners that don't even know what title insurance is.
Until they get into trouble.
Right.
You know?
And that's another part. You don't realize how important a good title company is until it's too late sometimes. So, you know, when there is something that was missed and it pops up on the chain and there's a cloud on title, the old title company didn't do their due diligence. And so now the buyer is stuck with that. And a lot of times they'll go...
That's where the lawyers come in.
Well, yeah, hopefully
Well,
not.
we hope
The title
not.
company is supposed to, that insurance policy is supposed to insure against that, where they can go file a claim and the title company will be responsible for that, paid off. But a lot of times they, you know, especially when the market crashed, the title companies weren't there anymore. They filed BK, they were gone, they closed up shop. Or in other cases, they fight back and they say, no, you know, for X, Y, and Z, this it wasn't our fault, or this is not a claim, a legitimate claim.
And I remember, you know, a few years ago in the short sale,
oh my goodness,
you know, downturn, and the banks were taking on all these quote unquote assets.
Yeah.
There was some questions with title.
Yeah.
You know, and who owned the property, and that's where title really becomes important when you know what you're buying.
We definitely earned our money in those days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, title insurance can't be issued after a foreclosure. It has to go to that first owner, and then when they sell it after a foreclosure, or at an auction rather, then they can issue title insurance afterwards.
Got it.
So yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's something I didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. I know, you know, we were talking about when I lived in Hawaii for many years, and I have my license there. And so one of the things that you said you can trace back to some properties is, say, you could go back to who owned that property. Was it the King of Spain?
Yeah.
Who really owned? And I know I grew up in Roland Heights, which has a big history in Orange County. The Rolands, there's a book called Picturing Los Angeles, and it goes through who owned all the Brea and Olinda and all the, you know, Orange, who owned all these properties, and how the titles were transferred over by marriages and different things.
Yeah.
It was really interesting to me.
You know, it's exciting. Yeah, you can, I mean, let's say Old Town Pasadena or Hollywood or even like Laguna Beach and some of the coastal communities. And if you had a celebrity that had owned the property, you know, it's exciting to kind of research that and hold and see that grant deed or copy of it that, you know, Bette Midler owned that house before or whatever. But also going back to the King of Spain, in particular in California, in some cases we were able to deed all the way back and kind of show the chain of title from the King of Spain moving forward to the current owner
that's
now.
Cool. It makes you feel special, especially in some of those older houses that have histories, if the walls could talk, kind of thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, we are ready for our break now.
For real this time.
Yes, for real this time. Yeah, so we'll be back in just a little bit.
Thank you.
Imagine what it would feel like to lose everything: your job, your home, your family, your dignity. This has happened to thousands of the men, women, veterans, and young adults we serve at Working Wardrobes. What do we do to help? We provide career development services, life skills workshops, job skills training. We provide the perfect interview outfit, and we get clients placed in jobs. Call Working Wardrobes, 714-210-2460. Donate, volunteer, invest, hire.
When you use the Premier Rewards Gold Card from American Express, the rewards points can keep on multiplying. Buy 3 with triple points on airfare. Buy 2 with double points on gas and groceries. And a single point for pretty much every other dollar you spend on the card. Then, start choosing from over 1 million rewards to redeem all those points. Apply today and the annual fee for the first year is on us. Call 1-800-AXP-GOLD or visit axpgold.com. The annual fee for the card is $175. See terms, conditions, and restrictions at axpgold.com.
All right, back to Roseanne and her real guest here, who's been really interesting about the real world of title. Can I ask my idiot in the room kind of question? I've brought this up before with other people on Roseanne's show. Who picks the title company? I never had any choice.
Oh, dun, dun,
Bum,
dun.
bum.
Yeah.
That's
So-
a really good question.
And why do they pick the title company? Is it because they're getting, I'm sorry to say, some referral fee or finder's fee?
No.
Because they have a relationship? Because they trust them? Because that's who their company always uses? I don't know. How do you pick one, and who picks it?
Great question, actually. Really
It
good
is.
question. Not
It
a
is.
silly one at all. Right now, for anything's negotiable in a transaction, right? But because it is the seller's responsibility to pass on clear title, for the most part, the seller will choose the title company. And a lot of times that's kind of suggested by the,
By the
agent, that they're working
right.
with.
Their listing
Now-
agent will usually recommend someone unless
Right.
they have a relationship.
Right. Now, the counter argument to that is, you know, if you're buying a car in a dealership, you wouldn't let the dealership dictate what title company that the car buyer is going to deal with moving forward in the future.
Right.
And I kind
It's a
of
little catch,
Yeah,
right?
so I
Right,
kind of
right.
see that comparable in this situation.
Right.
So
That's a good-
in terms of when I have my clients on the buyer side and they're negotiating and they're going into into contract from the buyer side, I kind of arm them with that piece of information, and and sometimes they're able to have my company do the transaction or the title insurance because of that. Because it just makes sense that their buyer would get to choose, since they're the ones that will have to deal
that
with
are
any
actually
issues.
paying for it or
right,
deal
and
with
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And it's funny because how I met you was I was working with a seller who was out of state, and his tenant wanted to buy the property, and he wanted to use your company.
Yeah.
And I had really never worked with your company before, and
Hallelujah,
that's how
thank-
we went through and met each other,
Yeah.
and everyone was happy. And so Paul, on my end, in my template for my contracts when I'm creating an offer, it always says seller's choice or Josh Meader from
Aw.
Josh Meader from Lawyer's
Thank you,
Title.
Roseanne.
And so he's on there, and that can put the bug in the ear.
Sure.
It's just a little crazy in this market where we're low on inventory, properties are getting multiple offers, that you want to make that offer more attractive to the seller.
Right.
But but you do make a good point on that.
So
because-
somebody tweets in and says, is there a price difference? That's an interesting. Do I save
that's-
money if I go
that's-
with Joe's title company versus a lawyer's title
That's a
company?
phenomenal question
Yes.
as well. So all the title companies in California are governed by the Department of Insurance, and we're regulated really heavily in terms of honoring our fee schedules. And all of the title companies' fee schedules are relatively
Really
close.
close.
I mean, maybe off by a couple dollars in almost 90% of the case or instances. So there is slight discounts, but you can't really. We're not allowed to give discounts. We can get
Right.
in big trouble for that. But I can't. I
It's
can't
not
speak
like
for
an escrow can
other
give
companies.
discounts. It's a little different.
Use it as a way and maybe offer discounts to get the business sometimes. But we play by the book and make sure that we're honoring the rules.
Well, I
of
know
the
that Josh
Department of
offers the
Insurance.
best customer service. He's
Yes.
always answering the phone or
Yes.
questions, and he's such a resource to the local realtors around, even giving happy hours. I never can attend those happy hours because I have those board meetings on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
You're going to have those happy hours on another day than Wednesday.
Well, and just to clarify, I can't do the happy hours, but what I do, and I come and speak about title insurance and educate the realtors, and then I'll
Right.
partner up with like a lender that can pick up the tab, because that's another thing.
Oh, that's another
that
that
we're
you're regulated
Yeah. So
on.
when I started
Right.
18 years ago, it was like the Wild Wild West. And title salespeople could, I mean, if you wanted Laker tickets, you wanted to go to Tahoe and go skiing,
Oh,
you wanted to go,
dang. I
Yes
missed
to
out.
all of the above.
right, you want to go see Joe Bonamassa
Yeah.
front row, play the
Yeah.
guitar. Title reps would provide that stuff in exchange for business. And after the market collapsed, it became illegal, and now I can't
Oh,
even.
wow.
I can't even. I can't even buy you a cup of coffee. I can get into big trouble and lose my
Wow,
license. So
that's
yeah,
crazy.
that's why I wanted to clarify
Yeah,
on what you
yeah.
said right there, because
Yeah.
I'm only allowed to speak about
Get
title-related
it.
things,
Got
and
it.
so doing
So
those.
you pair up with others.
I have to. Yeah, it's important. That's the only way I can get in front of them is,
Right.
a lender or someone that's willing, or even insurance, a farmer's insurance agent or something like that wants to connect with the audience. Yeah.
And just to touch real loosely on how you help other agents is the analytics now for looking at how long people are staying in their homes, and who's most likely to sell.
Right.
It's not you know, it's kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean. It's more than a guide than a for sure thing. But you can really use more predictive analytics now to say, hey, this guy really might be looking to sell his house.
I would like to think that I have mastered that art, and so that's why you know, some people call me the Professor Meader. Because I've really, you know, I've become a data geek, and I've studied my skill set is
awesome.
Thank
I love
you.
the analytics.
I've mastered the art of studying behavioral patterns within, you know, communities, within neighborhoods, through the title data, and then looking for opportunities for my agents. And I think last year I was responsible for 16 listings. This year I have 8 so far under my belt for various different clients.
That's
and
great.
I don't think anybody else can really you know, boast about that in my industry, none of my counterparts. So it sets me apart and adds tremendous value to my agents.
I have to ask one more question, because
Absolutely,
it came up on another
Feel
show
free.
here, actually.
Yeah.
What's the average hold time these days for a home here in Orange County? It used to be people moved up or moved out faster. Seem to be living, I know in my own case, I've been at my house 17 years. I didn't think I planned that
You'd
when I
be one
started.
of those ones, right?
Yeah, right.
You'd be
I mean, the
door
baby
knocking.
boomers seem to be here stuck. We don't want to move out. We don't want to move up. We don't want to move down. We're not sure what we want to do.
And that's another great question. You know, I would say the average stay years right now is probably between 10 and 12 years for the most part, but that isn't who you should be marketing to. It's very misguiding if you're thinking as a realtor, okay, I'll just market to people that are close to the 10 or 12 year mark. But for the most part, on average, I would say in between 10 and 15 years, or 10 to
Something
12
like
years,
that,
around
right.
there. Yeah. So I see that there's really 2 major audiences that are selling their houses. There are 2 types of homeowners. One audience I call a circumstance or life circumstance homeowner.
Moving up, moving down.
Yeah, you
Getting
know, or
divorced, something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
Divorces,
yes,
maybe a
deaths.
job relocation.
Right.
Maybe you buy the house and you realize, oh my goodness, I hate the neighbors, or I don't really like this property. Whatever the reason is. So that's the one audience, and I've been able to zero in on that audience. And then really the other majority is people have been there for 20 years or greater. So you are what I call a dead zone homeowner, because usually people don't sell until they get close to the 18, 19, 20 year mark. Really is where where I have my agents focus
Thinking
on.
about they're an empty nester now, or whatever might be going
so
on.
I hope I'm not giving away too many of my proprietary secrets. Yeah, but that's what I'm seeing in my studies and my homework for the agent. So
you know, previously it would all depend on equity too, but now you know everybody's got equity. So real quick, I want to touch just on vesting. We didn't talk about vesting, and so whenever you open an escrow, I'm going to call. The escrow officer is going to ask my buyers, how do they want to vest this property?
Or hold title.
Or hold title, right. So holding title, there's a number of different ways, and I'm just going to read a few off for our listeners here, and we're not going to touch on all of them, but there's community property, there's joint tenancy, there's tenancy in common, there's partnerships and trusts, and I think it's very important that people learn about these.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, for instance, if we were married and had a property, a lot of times that's joint tenancy. Yeah. Don't tell your wife. So on a joint tenancy, or like I have a property I own with my family, which were joint tenants or tenants in common, you know, and we've changed a few of our vestings around. In fact, I had a question for you recently on that. So it's interesting.
The first thing I want to say is, especially for I don't want to say older, but I want to say the mature homeowners that have been in their home for a while, have children.
Why is everybody looking at me?
I want to recommend that you have your property vested in a trust, because this avoids probate. If you don't have it vested properly, and God forbid you pass away, something happens to you, and it's not vested properly, it doesn't automatically transfer to
your people.
Or even So
it's
and then they have
crazy.
to go to probate, and it costs so much money and time, and it's just it's an unfortunate situation. They're already going through the emotional aspect of losing that family member, if they still love you anyways, right? But, right. But, and then to have to deal with that on top of it is just such a burden. And it exhausts some of the equity there as well. The courts,
it does, and I don't think people realize it, and I'm learning it now.
So right of survivorship, community property, right of survivorship in a trust or a joint tenants is another one as well. So it's super important how you have your property vested. The only caveat or catch to that is we as title people cannot give advice on how you should hold it because it's considered legal advice.
Right.
And so there's some liability there for us. So yeah.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And we can always, so tell us, how can our listeners reach you if they have any questions for you?
Yeah. Yes. So I'm on, my cell phone number is 714-293-0798. You can always email me at joshua.meader, MEADOR, at LTIC.com. That stands for Lawyers Title Insurance Company. .com. And I'm on Facebook as well. You can put in my name on Facebook, and I'm sure I'll pop up right away. I try to shoot videos. I haven't done one for a little while, but I try to shoot informational videos, either for my agents or for the general public to educate them on title and real estate in general.
Hopefully we've helped some people today with answering some questions. If you have any more questions, feel free to contact Josh or feel free to contact me. My name's Roseanne Nitti. I'm with the Nitti Group. I'm out of Keller Williams Newport Estates.
And spell Nitti.
Nitti.
There you go.
You can reach me at 949-315-9104. My email is my name, Roseanne Nitti, at cox.net. Or my
Somebody
website.
just tweeted, how do we spell Roseanne?
ROSANNE NITTI. And my website is Nitti Group, NITTI group.com.
All right.
There we go. Thanks,
Is
Josh.
that it?
Yeah.
It went by so fast.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been fun.
Thanks
We'll do
for
it
being
again.
here.
You've been listening to another episode of Keeping It Real Estate, right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OCTalkRadio.net.